is Donnie Smith, and in this video we are going to test some Waterborne primer surfacer to see how it works. See if it works good or not. We have never tried this kind. It's new to us, and I think it's new to a lot of the industry, except maybe in California where they have more of those regulations. But if we've been using Waterborne paint and we really like that, but this is primer surfacer. And according to the technical data sheets, I read over it, you can put this directly over metal. You don't have to seal it, is what it says on this. This is AutoColor, it's the PG version, and I think they just came out with it. I think it's pretty new. It's P950-5505. Never tried this, so we're going to try it out, see how it works to determine if it works good or not. Now, what I'm going to be looking for is how well does it cover, if it sands good. And it's going to take a long term. We're going to have to, watch it for a while to see how well it, fills scratches and things like that. Is there any sand scratch swelling, the primer shrink or anything? That's only going to come with some time, but we're going to test it out just to see how it sprays and how it sands for now. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. First, we'll talk about the P pages just a little bit. On these P pages, it's small to medium areas. You want to apply 3 to 5 medium wet coats. Now, Waterborne, either paints or primers, they don't want you putting those on real thick, because if you put them on thick, it's going to take you longer to dry it. So you want to put lighter coats on, but perhaps more in this case, 3 to 5. A lot of the primers are 2 or 3, but 3 to 5 coats of this, but medium wet, meaning not too heavy of a coat each layer. And then you got to use the dryer to allow the blow it dry just like you would the base coat, so that each coat flashes. But as soon as it dries to a matte finish, all the water's evaporated, you're ready to put the next coat. So we should be able to put this on pretty fast. Then once it's dry, it says after it's dried to matte, it takes a couple of minutes to do that. Let it dry for 30 additional minutes and it's ready to sand. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait just that amount of time and see if it's ready to sand or not. It says it can be applied directly over metal. It says if you are applying directly over metal, they require a 2.5 mil thickness after sanded. So you want at least 2.5 mils on there, and we're going to check that with a mil gauge to see how we're doing on that. So anyway, we're going to check this out. It should be finished out with 220, before priming. You can still use a dry guide coat on it. Now you cannot put solvent base coat on top of this. Well, you can, but it says if you do, there's a sealer that you have to use. So we're going to apply this, and this it says soon, that it's not out yet. This is a gray. They also have a white and black. So you can basically use this as a sealer too. You just use a color that's close to the color that your car is. Like if it's a dark color, you'd use the black. If it's a light, you'd use a white, and so forth. And then after it's sanded, it should be close to the color that's on the car, the shade, not the color. And then that would eliminate the need for having to seal it. But everything else, the fluid tip that we're going to use, it says use a 1.6 to 1.9. And we'll use a 1.8 or 3M AccuSpray gun that we have. That should work for that. It says 10 pounds at the air cap. Reducing. It just reduces with the Waterborne water thinner that they have, and it says to reduce 10% by weight or 13% by volume. It says reduction accuracy is critical, therefore it's recommended to reduce by weight using a mixing scale. So that's what we'll do. We'll mix it 13% by weight on a mixing scale. So we'll get all this mixed up, we'll get it in the gun, and then we'll show you how it sprays. Okay, first we got the mil gauge out, just checking the mils in various locations to see what the paint reading is, and that way we'll know what it is after we apply the primer. And there's anywhere from 6 to 8 mils in these different locations, and down to the still obviously would be 0 mils there. But what I'm doing here, this is something that you would not normally do, but with testing this primer, I'm putting some different scratches in it to determine if it has sand scratch swelling and how much the primer shrinks over time.
So first I put some scratches with 36 grit, which is really coarse. You'd never want to prime over, something that coarse. And then I went to 80, then 180, and 220. And 220 is what's recommended to sand before priming. But I wanted to put this primer to the test and just kind of give some different grit scratches to see what it would do, and what kind of shrinking I would have. So I'm going to go ahead and put all these different scratches in, and I know where I'm putting these scratches at, so that after it's primed and I block it, I can see how well the primer feels. Okay, I've got it all, the scratches in it, the fender has been prepped, and now I'm just wiping it down with some cleaner. Anytime before you apply any type of coating, you want to clean it, make sure all the contaminants are off the surface. So I'm just cleaning it, wiping it down here, get it good and clean and ready to apply primer. Okay, now I'm putting my first coat of primer surfacer on, and if you remember in the P pages it said to put medium wet coats, and it didn't specify on this Waterborne if I'm supposed to overlap at 75%. Now other Waterborne is 75%, so I kind of followed the same procedure with this with a little bit tighter overlap. Now after I applied this first coat, it went on really wet, and it mentioned it did not want it being that wet, so I think I got it a little bit thick on the first coat. And dry time took a little longer with this coat. Actual time was 2 minutes and 48 seconds. I edited some of the drying time out. Didn't want to spend a lot of time watching primer dry, so I edited some of that out. But it was 2 minutes and 48 seconds on that first coat, which I think was a little bit longer than it should have been. So on the next coat, before I apply it, I'm going to adjust my spray gun. You can see that I'm, turning the fluid to where it'll apply less fluid, less primer. And now I'm going to move a little bit faster also. So I'm putting the second coat on with a tight overlap, still using that 75% overlap. And I apply the second coat. After it's applied, now I've got to dry it again with this dryer. Dry time was less on this one. The actual time was 1 minute and 13 seconds. So I did get that dry time down. And you can see after it's dry how it went from the gloss to the matte, the real dull. Once it's dull like this, you're ready to apply the next coat. So now I'm applying the third coat, and again I'm moving faster so I don't put it on too heavy, but I'm using a tighter overlap. And then between each coat, when using Waterborne, you have to help it dry with air. Now this is in a prep booth, and I'm not going to get quite as good airflows as I would in a paint booth, but you can see it's not taking that long. That one took 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and you can see how it flashes off and turns matte. So now I'm applying the fourth coat. Now they said you could apply anywhere from 3 to 5. We decided to do 4 for this demonstration to see how it works. So I'm applying the fourth coat, then once again I'll dry it. This coat took 1 minute and 39 seconds to dry before it's ready for the next coat. Okay, now that we got it dry, I'm going to get the mill gauge again, and this is where I'm going to determine, how much primer we actually put on there. Now I did it right after we dried it, and we had anywhere from 2 to 3 mils in the various locations. It's about 2.5 mils. A little bit thin from what the technical data sheet said. It wanted 2.5 after sanded, so we're probably a little bit light, so maybe we need to put the coats on just a little bit heavier. It'll take some adjusting to figure out how to get it just right. But then we waited 30 minutes like it said and started sanding, and it sanded really good. It turned to dust. Didn't clog up like I thought that it might. Over here where the scratches were at, I was going to see how well those sanded out, where the 36 and 80 and 180 and 220 were. Where the 36 was, I had to sand it through a little bit trying to get those out. The rest of them, they sanded out fine. Now one good thing about this primer that I haven't mentioned is it's got a 24-hour part life. So if you mix some up, basically you can use it all day long. Now you wouldn't want to leave it in your paint gun all day long, but you could pour it back in a cup and seal it off and use it the entire day. It's not catalyzed, and therefore it's not going to harden up on you. Had some students try sanding this and some primer surfacer solvent type just to see which one they like better, and they said that this Waterborne seemed a little bit easier to sand, didn't have to push as hard. But okay, so we sprayed the Waterborne primer on. It sprayed good, and we also found that it sanded good, had good build. The only thing we're unsure of is how much it's going to shrink, and we're going to test that out, and we'll let you know in another video. But overall, I found the Waterborne primer to work well. It dries good. You can actually speed up the process because you can apply a coat. You don't want to put it on too heavy, but you apply a coat, you dry it with the air. As soon as it's dry, as soon as it mats, you're ready to put another coat on. So you can put 4 or 5 coats on, pretty fast. And I don't think the mil thickness per coat is as much as you're going to find with solvent. I think per coat it's a little bit less. Only thing left that I can see that I don't know about is how well that it stays. Is there any shrinking? And that will come with time. We should be able to tell that after a while, because I've got some pretty deep scratches in that. Other than that, I found it to work good, and also had some students try it out, so get some different opinions, and they thought that it sanded it a little bit easier. Now the one thing I don't know, how much does it cost? I don't know. This was given to me to play around with, to try it out, see what I thought about it. So I don't really know the cost of it. Now the cool thing about it is if you have some extra primer left over and you got some other things to do the rest of the day, it has a 24-hour pot life, so you can use that primer all day long. Now you don't want to keep it in your gun. You can pour it in a cup, seal the cup off, and clean your gun. A couple hours later, if you need to use a little bit more, pour it in there and spray that spot, and you can do that all day long. After a day, I probably wouldn't want to use it anymore, but that's good. It has the 24-hour pot life. Anyway, the more I use it and experiment with it, I'll let you know more about it and what I think about it. But from what I see so far, I think it's a good primer. Like I said, got to check on the price to see what that is. But anyway, that wraps it up for this video, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to learn more about what we're doing and some of the things that we're testing to see how they work. And hopefully this will help you make your decisions, or whenever you may decide to try some of these products as well. And if you have already tried these products, these products are new to my area, but I know in California they've been using a lot of different waterborne products for a long time. And if that's the case, and if you've been using them and you've ran into this problem that you can caution us about, be sure to go down below in the comments section and leave us a comment and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And that way, we can learn from your knowledge as well. But anyway, I thank you for watching this video. We'll talk to you next time.